TitleMatchNetwork.com.
What are your early memories about Jerry Graham?
Dr. Jerry Graham was one of the most another unique person, and one thing he did in Phoenix that made national news back in the day. His mother, he was very close to his mother. His mother went into the hospital. She died in the hospital. The doctors called Jerry Graham, said, "Your mother just passed away." Jerry Graham lost it and went to the hospital with a Bowie knife and a revolver. Went in and said, "Where's my mother?" And they all backed off. They said, "Well, your mother passed away. She's over here," Went in and grabbed his mother, threw his deceased mother over his shoulder, walked her out to the car and put her in the car and drove away.
Wow.
Completely lost it. And of course and then the police converged and finally came back and they took him down for mental evaluation, which was obviously the right thing to do. And then it wasn't long after that I was with Jerry Graham, and he loved his mother so much, it was unbelievable that all of a sudden he found out that his mother had left $500,000 of her money that Jerry Graham thought he was going to get, left it to the Baptist church. And Jerry Graham was not a religious man, and so he freaked out. And so that really turned him against any spiritual churches, things like that, because his mother leaving $500,000 to the church.
Wow.
So that was a big deal,
Do you have any positive Jerry Graham Rhodes stories, or something that people find humorous?
Oh yeah. He told me, Jerry Graham explained to me how to blade yourself. He said, don't go, up and down, vertical, because a lot of guys did that, of course, because I think they thought it was like a badge of honor. He says, cut your head along with the lines of your forehead, and it blends in. And this was coming from a guy that really could care less about how he looked or how the way he did things. But that was a pearl of wisdom. You see people like Rocky Johnson, dear friend of mine, Josh LeDuc, just the old Sheik, and all these things, gigs going up and down. Well, you reverse it. I probably bladed myself a couple hundred times, and you probably really can't tell it because I went with. That's a real wisdom, a lot of knowledge there, how to blade yourself. How bizarre that is. But that was a real insightful thing that he did for me.
You used to do shows on Indian reservations. How were they?
Oh, Jerry Graham told me that the Indians don't need much to make them happy. So we went to the Indian reservations when I first started, got a beat up old ring, went up there, and Jerry says, "Yeah, the Indians don't need much." We put together a ragtag crew of myself, Dr. Jerry Graham, a friend of mine, Ron Pritchard, the All-American football player who introduced me to steroids. He had already went to Stu's for a little short time and came back, and he thought he was going to wrestle. And so we did that. We put together 4 or 5 guys. We have a wrestling match. Each one of us would go out there in a single match. I'd have a single match. Jerry Graham would have a single match, and then we'd come back in a tag team match. 3 matches and take an intermission after the first 2. And so, but the Indians were happy. They were happy, and I did my first blade job on the Navajo Indian Reservation, Arizona. And because Jerry Graham told me, he said, the Indians like blood. The Indians like blood. And he asked, he said, use the word juice. I said, I never heard juice before. I said, what do you mean like juice? He said, we got to get some blood for the Indians. We do? We do? So Jerry Graham opens up his bag, starts rummaging through his bag for a razor blade. And lo and behold, he found a couple of razor blades that had been used over and over and over. I went, I got this queasy feeling. Here, let me show you how to tape it to your deal. You hide it in your tights, and You pull it out and you do the deal. I said, well, I think I'll tape it because I think I might lose it. You know?
You don't mess around down there.
Yeah, you know? And so I went out there, did the first match. I bladed myself. And I thought, man, you know, the blood is pouring off of my head. So by the time I get there in the match, walk back to the locker room, look in the mirror, and look and see this mass of blood, man. Just a little trickle. I just, you know, like I just couldn't, you know, I just couldn't do that. You know, so I just went ink, and there's about that much blood. So disappointed, you know. And then Jerry Graham, of course, goes out. He actually saw him in the ring wrestling John Todos in Bakersfield when he first had our run there. Pull that blade, and he got the blade out of the bottom of his bag. You know, been used many times. That's what I use. One of his blades. Think how stupid that is. Another guy's blade that cuts his head. A lot of times at the bottom of the bag. But I did it. Saw him get this, and while John Todos was punching his head, Jerry Green was going like this, like this, just about that slow. His whole head, this whole big line just opens up. Oh God, man! You know. So, but Jerry Graham was awesome. I love the guy. You know. So that was the blade deal on the Indian reservation, you know. And they were easy. They were happy. You know, 3 matches. You know, and I think they paid $2 a piece to get in. The Indian reservation had their own ring. That was a good deal. You know.
What are your memories of Eddie Graham? A lot of people say he's one of the best bookers of all time.
Yeah, genius in his finishes, absolute genius. And it was really, really, really a deep person. Of course, just had a lot of troubles when I was there, as you know. He got involved in that scam about the land sale and all that. And one of the funniest things I ever saw was when he brought Sailor Art Thomas in to work with me around Florida for a while after I was through with Dusty, and going over, he had finishes were complicated finishes. These finishes, Roy Shires, San Francisco, Eddie Graham, had the reputation of the 2 best finishing people in the business, and these were complicated finishes. And poor Sailor Art Thomas would sit there and say, Eddie, would you repeat that, please? And Eddie Graham, he just smiled. You know, he just smiled. Sure, Sailor. We'd go through the finish 3 or 4 times, but he was an amazing genius when it came to the finishes of wrestling.
What are your memories of working in Florida at the time?
Florida, a lot of driving, just a lot of miles in Florida. Also, the humidity was horrible. The summertime in some of these older buildings. The Eddie Graham building in Orlando, stuff like that. Humidity was just, you know, and it was known that if you went to Florida, you best be bringing a lot of razor blades with you, because Florida, you cut your head a lot. Well, Dusty Rhodes, sure enough, you know, almost every match, everywhere, you're going to cut your head. And so, and I had a little deal there with Dusty. He said, you know, we'll cut my head too much. You know, I can't heal. You know, and I said, man, come on, some of these finishes, we don't need blood all the time, you know. And so he's back on that. But it was known among the boys to bring a lot of razor blades to Florida. So that's kind of bizarre.
Did Florida change at all when he came back? Did you feel any differences there?
Oh, yeah, because Dusty was gone. Dusty was a mastermind. He was he was the glue, man. He was the guy. He was the Bruno Sammartino of Florida. You know, Dusty was the legend, man, legit. And so he was gone. So it pretty much left a void. It's a big void there. But Kevin Sullivan was sharp, smart. So we did some good business, but there was a big chunk missing.
What are your memories of the Kevin Sullivan angles?
Oh, yes. Yes, it was amazing to see the devil worship and the pythons, the snakes. And I always had this phobia about snakes. Ever since I was a kid, I didn't like snakes, man. I had to put this python around me. Ugh. You know, and this demonic deal he had, you know, with the girls and all the humperdinck and all the demonic devil stuff. Is like, this really is the dark side here. This is really dark. This is dark stuff, man. But it worked. I mean, Kevin Sullivan, he pulled it off. The gimmick worked. It was just like, I was very uncomfortable with it. I couldn't wait to turn babyface on that deal against Kevin Sullivan.
It's going to be big business too, right?
Yeah, good business.
TitleMatchNetwork.com